Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kasha and I'm just a girl who loves to talk about things in my day-to-day life, and sometimes I make fun videos about them. Today I want to share the 3 films I would sell my soul to watch for the first time again.
Ooh, I'd sell my soul for a donut.
Well, that can be arranged.
Thunder!
Maybe that's a bit of an over-exaggeration and the title is way too intense, but I was inspired by some booktuber videos with the same title and I thought it was a fun idea. These are the films that made a real impact on me, some simply because they transported me into new fantastical worlds, others because they were so thought-provoking I thought about them all night after I watched them. So let's jump right into them in no particular order. The Lord of the Rings. So I include the whole trilogy as one entry on this because they were all filmed at the same time, and to be honest, it is impossible for me to choose which one I like best. Believe me, I've tried, and I feel like my favorite order changes by the hour. What makes these films so special is how Peter Jackson effectively captured the magic of Tolkien's story. It has a fantastic script, insane production design, mesmerizing world building, a legendary soundtrack that sends chills down my spine every time I hear it, and outstanding career-making performances from Ian McKellen's Gandalf to Viggo Mortensen's Aragorn, who, side note, was my first ever celebrity crush. I was absolutely obsessed with him. Now, I'm going to get into small spoiler territory, but I mean, come on. You're not truly living if you haven't seen these movies, so go watch them and then come back and write to me all about them in the comments. Sometime last September, my friends and I did a marathon where we watched all 3 films in one day, and even though I have seen these films many times over, the magic was still evidently there as I teared up during all of my favorite scenes. Really quick, I want to show you guys my friend John's hilarious reaction to the ending. It was his first time ever watching it and it was priceless. Sorry about the swearing.
Drop it though. Good God. Drop the goddamn egg!
No, Sam, he might have to Spartan kick his ass into that.
God. It's so stressful.
Okay, so in the simplest of terms, this film is the hero's journey where we follow a young hobbit named Frodo Baggins on a quest to destroy the One Ring, because if it is not destroyed and falls into the wrong hands, it will bring absolute chaos and devastation to the fantasy world of Middle-earth. The story is high fantasy but dives into very human themes and has incredible symbolism about power, corruption, addiction, greed, and so much more. My top 3 favorite scenes from the movies that never fail to hit me right in the feels are the Fly You Fools scene from the Fellowship of the Ring.
Fly, you fools!
Sam's speech about the tales that really mattered in the Two Towers, and Aragorn's "My friends, you bow to no one" scene in Return of the King. And that is precisely why I couldn't just pick one of these films, as they are all equally phenomenal and have such special moments that it's just impossible to choose. Next, I've chosen the 2006 film Pan's Labyrinth. So Pan's Labyrinth, in my opinion, is Guillermo del Toro's best film and maybe the most haunting film that I have ever watched. It is definitely not a movie that I revisit often, as it is so incredibly sad, and every time I rewatch it, I end up thinking about it the whole night, but that is exactly what makes it so powerful. With this film, Del Toro beautifully mixes fairy tale and fantasy with real life and transports us into the mind of an 11-year-old girl named Ophelia during the horrors of World War II. It's, in my opinion, moving art, because not only is the story heart-wrenchingly beautiful, but the cinematography, the costume design, and the special effects are extraordinary. Oh, and the score is unreal. The song Pan's Labyrinth Lullaby may be one of the most beautiful melodies ever recorded, Javier Navarrete is an absolute genius. The film is also wholly entrancing and relentlessly dark as we watch our main character Ophelia create an imaginary world that initially seems like a beautiful dream, but ends up just as terrifying as her real one. In the film, Ophelia and her sick, pregnant mother are forced to move to the mountains of Spain. Her mother has remarried an awful man named Captain Vidal who is fighting on the wrong side of World War II and is absolutely vile. He is a complete sociopath and maybe one of the most horrid villains ever put to screen. He brutally tortures and kills anyone he believes may be on the Ally side of the war and seems to completely and unabashedly enjoy it. He's also obviously terrible to Ophelia, and her real life becomes a horror as she is forced to live with him and her mother is helplessly ill. As a desperate way to escape, she creates a fantasy world in the form of a labyrinth and meets a mythical faun that tells her that she is the reincarnation of a magical princess. He tells her that she must complete a series of tasks before the next full moon in order for her to reclaim her throne. My favorite scene from this film was definitely the Pale Man scene, as it was terrifying but beautiful and layered with a ton of symbolism. The Pale Man is a character designed as an albino child-eating demon and is a terrifying monster. He has no face and inserts his eyes into holes in his hands whenever he is ready to prey on children. The design was based on what Del Toro thought an old white man would look like if he was once very overweight and gluttonous, but was now decrepit and nothing but skin and bone. Del Toro himself tweeted that the Pale Man represents all institutional evil feeding on the helpless. It is not accidental that he is A, pale, B, a man. He is thriving now. This idea is illustrated throughout the entire film. Del Toro wanted to illustrate the evil of humanity and how humans prey on the innocent. This entire scene is designed to show what happens when we break the rules that those in power, whether it's the government, religious institutions, or corporations have set out for us, and what happens when we no longer want to conform to the rules and chains of society. This idea is executed in a masterful, bone-chilling way, and that is exactly why this film makes my list. Before I move on to my third pick, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button below, as it really helps me out with YouTube's mysterious algorithm, and hit the bell to get notified every time I post a new video. Thanks in advance, and now back to our scheduled programming. Okay, so on a much lighter note, the next film is 2001's Spirited Away. So I had a lot of trouble choosing between this movie and Hayao Miyazaki's Howl's Moving Castle, but after much thought and deliberation, I think this is the better film. My brother first showed me this movie when I was 9 years old, and I remember starting it again immediately after it was over. The story, the animation, the attention to fine detail, and score are like no other. I think the magic of this movie is that it transcends age, and no matter how old you are, something about the story resonates with you. Every time I watch Spirited Away, I get completely absorbed in the world and always find new details that I had never discovered before due to how layered it is. The film draws from many figures in Japanese folklore, like Bo, the giant baby of Yubaba, is inspired by the Japanese folk hero Kintaro, and Haku is inspired by the Japanese water dragon Mizuchi, but the Japanese title of the movie itself has the word kamikakushi in it, which refers to the concept of mysteriously disappearing with no one noticing because the gods have abducted you into the spirit world. The main themes of the film are also very powerful, which are the power of language, words, and names, and the inevitability of change and having to grow up. On top of the enchanting story, the animation is breathtakingly hand-drawn and is just a delight to behold. Miyazaki chose beautiful color palettes, created stunning backgrounds, and added subtle details that brought the story to life. He also put great effort into realistically animating shadows, character expressions, tear droplets, and even drool when you're eating, as well as subtle movements that people sometimes do in their day-to-day lives, like Chihiro tapping her shoes on the floor after putting them on. And despite being a fantasy, Miyazaki grounded the film and made it feel real by illustrating time and space through the film's pacing and showing us the scale of the world. For example, at the beginning of the film, he shows Chihiro's painstaking journey to meet the Boilerman Kamaji. There is no time skip, and we see her make her way down the stairs through the world of the bathhouse, minute by minute. Later on in the film, Chihiro as Sen makes the exact same journey, but it is in reverse when she meets Haku at the pig barn. We once again follow her every step from the beginning to the end, and Miyazaki could have easily skipped this, but instead chose to show it to us to evoke a sense of realism through the passage of time. I also love this movie because of the wide array of fascinating characters, from Haku to Yubaba to No-Face to Zeniba. Each character is wonderfully unique and feels like a fully rounded person. It was actually really difficult for me to pick a favorite scene in this film, as there are so many good ones, so I decided on 3. I absolutely adore the train scene, the crying in the garden with Haku scene, and the river spirit bath scene. If you haven't seen this movie, I wholeheartedly recommend it, as it truly is a masterpiece, and I believe it will be your time well spent. So those are the top 3 movies I'd sell my soul to watch for the first time again. I know I kind of cheated with Lord of the Rings, but it's hard not to see that trilogy as one movie, especially if you binge watch them like I do. I would love to hear about what films you love and would quote unquote sell your soul to watch for the first time again. If you want to share them with me, let me know in the comments below. I'm really excited to read all about them, and goodbye for now.